Exposed. The incredible moment I left my son's wedding as a single mom with a charity case label. Carla stood in front of the mirror, her heart racing, as she struggled to zip up her modest, gently worn dress. Memories of laughter and clinking champagne flutes from neighborhood gatherings echoed in her mind, but today that joy felt miles away. It wasn't just Jake's wedding day. It was the day her past collided with the painful whispers of charity case that still haunted her well-meaning friends from long ago, casting shadows over this pivotal moment. As she squeezed the zipper, the fabric tugged painfully. She caught her reflection, soft wrinkles framing tired eyes, yet a fire ignited from within. It was almost there, she could do this. The church overflowed with blooming flowers, their scent sweet and inviting, while soft lights twinkled like stars above. Carla squeezed her son's arm as he stood beaming, ready to exchange vows with the love of his life. Joy surged through her. Yet every heartfelt moment was flipped by the insidious murmurs of entitlement. The pity and half-hearted shoulder pats grated on her heart as if she were a relic, something from which they must show compassion. That old neighbor, inebriated by nostalgia, raised her glass and declared, "Look at what everyone is doing for small-town Carla." Carla felt like she'd been doused in ice water, the warmth of the moment snatched away. Resentment knotted in her stomach, twisting into a noxious form of indignation. With tears gathering in her eyes, she stepped outside the church. The warmth of the roses was replaced by a chilling blast of self-doubt. What did they know? Did anyone see her strength? As she leaned against the cool white brick of the church, she spotted him, a battle-worn veteran sitting on a nearby bench, his gaze upturned, absorbing the night. Tom's own scars bore stories of heartbreak and resilience, and as their eyes met, an understanding washed over them. "What's wrong?" he asked gently, as if he knew the weight of her burdens. And she told her story, the juggling of multiple jobs, the wrenching loneliness, the fight to give Jake everything. "Stop seeing yourself through their eyes," he advised, his voice like gravel yet soothing. "You're stronger than any label they try to put on you." A flicker of hope ignited in her heart. Here was someone who saw her, truly saw her. It wasn't about being a charity case, it was about overcoming, about carving a narrative past the judgments. With swirling thoughts of purpose and clarity, Carla felt the shackles of prejudice begin to break. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the wedding night unfolded behind her, bubbling laughter and joy filled the air. But Carla turned to re-enter, resolve strong and empowered. Yet the door was shut, as if the universe conspired to keep her out. The laughter echoed louder, amplified by the sting of exclusion. Where does she go from here? Emerge into a world that sees her with perception, or break free from the constraints of judgment? Glancing at the shimmering stars above, the path forward glimmered brightly alongside her overwhelming doubts. What does it truly mean to own her narrative? The answer felt just within reach, yet elusive, as she stood on the precipice of change. Carla's breath caught in her throat as she stepped away from the church, her mind racing. The laughter and celebration felt like a distant echo, a reminder of a world she didn't belong to. She had fought too hard to let a single moment strip away her strength. "Carla!" The familiar voice cut through her thoughts. It was Jake, his face flushed with excitement. "Mom, where do you go?" "I just needed a moment," she replied, forcing a smile. But inside, a storm raged. How could she return to that room, to the painful glances and whispered assumptions? Jake reached out, concern shadowing his eyes. "Is everything okay?" She wanted to tell him the truth, wanted to share the weight that had nearly crushed her spirit. Instead, she nodded, a flicker of warmth igniting in her chest at the sight of him. "Yes, just a little overwhelmed." "You look beautiful, Mom," he said earnestly. "You should be in there with me and Sarah." The lump in her throat tightened. "Thank you, sweetheart." It was those moments, the ones that reminded her he was the reason she fought every day, that turned her lonely battles into purposeful strides. Jack's gaze didn't waver. It glimmered with that unshakable belief in her. She felt the surge of a mother's love, igniting a flicker of defiance. "Let us go back in together," he suggested, threading his arm through hers. As he pulled her forward, she caught sight of Tom again. He nodded, a simple yet powerful gesture that reaffirmed her resolve. This was her moment. As they re-entered the church, something shifted in the air. It felt different now, charged with the electricity of self-acceptance. The buzz of conversation faded as Carla searched the faces in the crowd. They met hers with polite smiles, yet she refused to let their fleeting judgments invade her spirit. "Jake, I love you." The words slipped out, filling her with warmth. "I love you too, Mom." His smile radiated pure happiness. She decided then it didn't matter what labels others slapped on her. What mattered was the life she had built, the sacrifices she made, and the connection with her son. As the ceremony distracted the crowd, she quietly drifted towards a corner of the reception area. From here, she could see Jake and Sarah on the dance floor, spinning and laughing like they owned the world. The sheer joy on their faces warmed her heart. But then the whispers began again. "Poor Carla. I wonder how she manages alone." With every phrase, a wave of anger washed over her. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every single parent juggling life under the weight of assumptions and stereotypes. They deserved more than charity case. They deserved recognition and respect. Suddenly, a thought sparked in her mind, electrifying and new. A chance to change the dialogue, to show everyone the real story of her life. With renewed determination, she moved toward the dance floor, not waiting for anyone's permission. No more pretending. No more hiding. "Jake," she called, her voice clear and strong. Her son turned to her, surprise and joy mingling on his face. "Mom, come dance with us." So she did. With every step, she shed the lingering shadows of judgment. She danced with abandon, feeling the space around her pulse with energy and acceptance. A gentle smile graced her lips as she twirled, her worries falling away like petals in the wind. The laughter didn't seem so far away anymore. It wrapped around her like a warm embrace. But as the music swelled, Carla spotted someone in the back. A familiar face, nefarious and resentful in its familiarity. The crowd's doubts returned like a boomerang, nudging at her newfound courage. What would they say now? How would this moment be twisted? As tension sizzled in the air, she faced the familiar face. It was time to shine a light on the truth. She needed to confront the past before she could fully embrace the future. Could she find the words to redefine her story once and for all? Carla's heart raced as she locked her eyes on that familiar face. A shadow from her past. Lisa. The one who had always whispered behind her back. Who had once been a friend but turned into a critic. The twinkling lights of the dance floor suddenly dimmed. The joyful music faded into the background like an old record cutting out. "Mom!" Jake's voice broke her trance, pulling her back to the present. He spun around, his brows knitted in concern. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she replied, though her voice felt shaky. The confidence she had just mustered was suddenly fragile, like glass teetering on the edge of a table. She took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts, trying to quell the rising tide of doubt. Jake took her hand, his warm grip grounding her. "Let us keep dancing." As they moved to the music, the familiar rhythm wrapped around her, but her eyes were still drawn to Lisa's mocking smile. Each laugh that floated her way felt like a jab, a reminder of every sleepless night, every hardship she had endured. Did Lisa think she was wowed by her judgy expression? Did she believe she had the right to define who Carla was, who Carla could be? "Mom, you're the life of the party," Jake exclaimed, twirling her into a graceful spin. She couldn't help but laugh at his exuberance, the sound bubbling up like champagne fizz. But it was fleeting. She caught Lisa's eye again, and this time, the uncertainty devoured her joy. What if her son's happiness dimmed in the face of his mother's past? In that moment, Carla knew she couldn't let someone like Lisa continue to have power over her life. Her feelings erupted in her chest, a wild mix of anger and determination. She felt the years of weight on her shoulders, the grinding burden of self-doubt. It was time to reclaim her narrative. "Jake," she said, her voice steady as she pulled him aside. "I need to step outside for a minute." "Are you sure?" "The dance floor, just trust me." He nodded, worry knitting his brow, but followed her lead. As they walked out into the quiet night, the cool air hit her like a refreshing wave. The distant sounds of laughter and celebration faded behind them, leaving a veil of serenity. She turned to Jake, feeling the weight of her decision. You know what people think? It doesn't matter. What matters is how you feel about yourself and the love we share. I know, Mom. But sometimes, people can be unfair, he replied, his voice small. Carla knelt to his level, looking into his earnest eyes. You need to know that it's okay to own who you are. Because every choice I made, every struggle I faced brought me to you. And that's my victory. Jake's eyes lit up, and she could see him processing her strength. Mom, you're incredible. Just like you, she replied, the worry in her heart beginning to evaporate. And just then, amid the clarity surrounding them, she made a decision. Let us show everyone who we are. Jake tilted his head, curiosity sparking in his gaze. How? Carla straightened and, for the first time that day, allowed a smile of genuine assurance to cross her face. We're going to confront Lisa together. Unexpectedly, fear erupted within her. Would she have the strength to stand up against the negativity? She felt a mix of dread and exhilaration wash over her. But she knew this was their moment. Could she truly face her past, shatter the whispers and find the courage to redefine how the world saw her? She could feel the answer beginning to stir within her. The air outside was different, cleaner somehow. Carla took a deep breath, letting the chill wrap around her like a long-lost friend. Jake stood by her side, innocent and trusting, oblivious to the turmoil swirling inside her. He glanced up at her, waiting, anticipation shimmering in his eyes. Mom, are you really sure? He prompted, his voice laced with a mix of concern and excitement. It was a weighty moment, and the pressure to do the right thing pressed heavily on her chest. Carla bit her lip, steeling herself. We can do this, she whispered, half convincing herself. I have to show Lisa I'm not the person I used to be. With Jake holding tightly onto her hand, they made their way back toward the venue. The pulse of the music grew louder again, mingled with the murmurs of celebration. Each step felt monumental, like climbing a mountain with no clear view from the top. But she was fueled by a burning desire to rewrite her story. As they reached the entrance, Carla spotted Lisa leaning casually against the wall, surrounded by a group of partygoers. The glow of the lights danced around her, enhancing that smug smile. It was as though she was a lighthouse, illuminating the very shore Carla wished to escape. For a moment time stood still. Mom, are we really going to do this? Jake's voice cut through her thoughts. Yes, Carla answered, the resolve in her voice surprising even her. We can't let fear hold us back anymore. She let the words build, then steppered inside, dragging Jake along with her. The moment they entered, heads turned. Carla's heart raced with the swift arrival of all eyes, every whisper as palpable as a cold breeze. She felt naked, exposed, but the warmth of her son's hand gave her strength. Look, there's Carla. Someone in the crowd chimed, and a murmur of recognition rose. Carla locked eyes with Lisa, who stopped mid-conversation, her smile faltering. This was it. Taking a deep breath, Carla stepped forward, pulling Jacob beside her. Lisa, she called out, her voice steady even as her hands trembled. Lisa's eyebrows shot up, surprise painting her face. Well, if it isn't the charity case herself, she quipped, her tone dripping with mockery. But it was different now. Carla felt the anger rise, but it didn't cloud her vision, it ignited her spirit. I'm not here for your approval, Lisa. I'm here because my son deserves to know he is more than what others think. Each word landed heavy, and she savored the clarity. We are more than your whispered rumors. We are a family built on struggles and love, not your judgments. The crowd fell silent, their faces a mix of curiosity and intrigue. Carla felt like she had released a caged bird, ready to soar and unafraid. Jake squeezed her hand harder, and tension slipped from his shoulders. Yeah, my mom is amazing. She's not a charity case, she's a warrior. He beamed, his pride shining bright. Something flickered in Lisa's eyes, and Carla could see the shift. Confusion replaced mockery. Carla stepped closer, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. Could she really break the hold of their shared past? What do you say now? Carla challenged, staring deeply into Lisa's guarded gaze. The crowd held its breath, and for the first time, Carla couldn't hear her own insecurities echoing in her mind. The power was shifting, but would this moment be enough to forge a new path? The silence was thick, charged with expectation. What would Lisa say? Would she fight back or would she finally back down? Carla watched, her heart a wild storm. This was the moment that could redefine everything. The silence dragged on, each second stretching like an eternity. Carla's heart pounded, echoing her resolve. She saw Lisa's eyes narrow as if weighing her words. The crowd had shifted, forming a barrier of held breaths and quiet anticipation. This was a face-off, but she felt strangely grounded. Wow, you really think you've changed, don't you? Lisa finally said, her voice low but edged with challenge. What's next? You've come to claim your glorious comeback? Glorious ain't the right word, Carla replied, her voice firm, cutting through the tension. It's about being real. I'm not pretending anymore. I'm proud to be here with my son, and that's all that matters. Jake, standing beside her, glanced up with eyes full of admiration. Mom is brave. Right, everyone? His innocent confidence rippled through the crowd, breaking some of the heaviness. They chuckled softly, the sound washing over Carla like a bomb. Brave? You think that's enough? Lisa's words lingered, sharp and disdainful. The energy in the room tensed, as if everyone were holding their breath again. No, it's not about just being brave. Carla took a step forward, her pulse racing. It's about owning who I am, where I've been and where I'm going. I won't hide from you anymore, Lisa. Not for your snide comments or the memory of who I used to be. The crowd shifted slightly, some heads nodding subtly as Carla's words sunk in. She felt the tide turning, gained momentum. Even Lisa's smile faltered now, the pride she once had seeming to dim. For a moment, uncertainty glimmered in her expression. Is that what you think? That I still see you that way? That caught Carla off guard, and her breath hitched. Lisa's surprise rekindled the fire in her. Maybe it's you who needs to stop carrying the weight of the past. It's exhausting. I'm not the one holding on to it, Carla shot back, an unexpected fierceness surging through her. I'm letting go, Lisa. I'm moving forward, trying to show my son the real strength, the kind that comes from love and effort. There was a restless whisper through the crowd, like a gentle wind swaying the trees, and the air felt electric. It seemed they were beginning to see her, really see her. Lisa blinked, the challenge ebbing momentarily. So this is what you want? You just want respect? I want to show Jake that the battles we fight matter, and we all deserve a second chance. Carla gestured towards her son, who stood proud and tall, with a smile that lit up his face. His faith in her ignited a warmth within. The whispers intensified, glances exchanged as the crowd absorbed the shift. Lisa folded her arms, an indignant expression painting her face, but it was clear she was losing ground. Carla took a breath, ready to go deeper. And you know what? Feels good. I'm not ashamed of where I'm from or of my mistakes. They V-shaped me, but they never define me or my son. Carla searched the crowd's faces, hoping to find allies in the sea of judgment. Last. One woman stepped forward, her confidence seeping like sunlight through the dark. She's right, the woman said. Everyone has their struggles. We're all just trying to be better. That's true. Another voice chimed in. Carla felt the swell of support around her, lifting her spirits. Who would have thought? But then Lisa scoffed, her expression hardening again. You think this changes anything? This isn't just going to magically erase? We'll see about that. Carla interjected, a newfound conviction settling in her stance. A ripple of determination danced through her. The game was changing, but would she be able to transform not just the perception of others but her own feelings toward herself too? Could this be the first step toward breaking free from the past once and for all? Carla felt Jake squeeze her hand tightly again, grounding her. They stood firm against the tide of judgment, ready for what came next. This was no longer just about confronting Lisa. It was about embracing herself. The crowd buzzed nervously, and she could sense the shift in energy and sentiment. But what if this is only the beginning? She wondered silently as she steadied her gaze on Lisa once more, heart racing, waiting for the next challenge to unfold. Would she rise to meet it? The tension in the air was almost palpable, swirling around Carla and Lisa like the restless waves of an ocean, pulling them closer yet keeping them at a distance. Carla could feel it in her bones. This moment was not just a confrontation. It felt like a reckoning. Lisa scoffed again, shaking her head as if dismissing not only Carla but the small uprising of support washing over. You think you've won some battle here? It's a fantasy to believe this will change anything. They'll still see you as that struggling single mother, a charity case. Her words cut deeply, and even though Carla felt the sting, she clenched her fists. Maybe that's what you see, but it's not how I define myself anymore, Carla shot back, infusing her voice with quiet strength. You're right, this isn't a fairy tale. Those labels might stay for some people, but I'm telling my own story now, one of resilience and courage. A flicker of surprise crossed Lisa's face, but she quickly masked it with skepticism. Resilience? You're delusional, Carla. What happens when things get tough? You're not built for this. For a moment, Carla faltered, and doubt crept in like an unwelcome guest. But she caught the way Jake watched her, his wide eyes full of belief and admiration. In that instant, a fresh wave of determination surged through her. Listen, Lisa, we're all built for our battles in different ways. This is mine, taking responsibility for my life and my choices. I won't be ashamed anymore. I'm learning to anchor myself in love and purpose. Each word felt like a step toward truth, solidifying her resolve. The crowd shifted again, a collective breath drawn tighter, as if they too were grasping at the implications of her words. One by one, small nods of agreement began to ripple through the gathered faces. It astonished her, watching people shift from disbelief to a sense of clarity. Did you feel that? She wondered just before Lisa interjected again. What about when you fail? When you trip up again? How will Jake see you then? A tightness wound around Carla's chest, but instead of retreating she pressed forward. Everyone stumbles, Lisa. Falling isn't failing. It's part of the journey. I want Jake to see that. Mistakes don't define me, and they won't define him either. Suddenly, another voice broke through the tension. A man from the crowd leaned in, his brow creased with the weight of shared experience. You don't have to be perfect to be a good mom. There are lessons in the failures. That's where growth happens. The murmurs shifted, growing louder, a cacophony of voices supportive and affirming. Carla's heart swelled. She wasn't alone. The tide was turning, and they were creating space for her truth. In that moment, she discovered an unexpected vulnerability in herself. A truth she hadn't used before. We don't just overcome struggles, she declared, her voice stronger, we grow. I'm not a charity case. I'm a warrior, and Jake is my heart. With renewed vigor, she looked directly at Lisa. Whatever you think of me, I'm moving forward. And I'll be damned if I let anyone hold that against me anymore. In the charged air, something cracked between them, an unsaid shift. Lisa's smirk faltered again. Was it uncertainty? Questions gathered in the crowd, whispers louder, and uncertainty shifted in the air. What must they be thinking? The challenge had morphed, but would Carla's moment of triumph remain? Would she hold firm in the face of Lisa's next rebuttal? Just then, Jake tugged at her hand, a light in his eyes. Mom, you're doing it. They believe in you. That single truth filled Carla with a warmth that enveloped her heart. What was it going to take to change minds and hearts completely? As she stood there, ready for anything, the tension wrapping around her like the embrace of a new reality, she wondered if this was just the beginning of her story or something more profound waiting just around the corner. What new challenge could come from this pivotal moment? The energy shifted once again, and a ripple of uncertainty passed through the crowd. Carla's heart raced as she noticed Lisa's face. The confidence that had once defined her seemed to waver. Was that a hint of fear creeping in? Let us be real, Lisa said slowly, her tone almost laced with hesitation. You think inspiring words can change the way the world sees you? There was a different note in her voice, but Carla couldn't let herself get distracted. She stood tall, feeling the collective gaze of neighbors and friends lingering on her, expectant and curious. Whatever they see or think, that's on them. I have a vision for my future. And it doesn't include being a victim of their labels. Carla gripped Jake's hand tightly, grounding herself in those small yet significant moments they shared. The laughter and the nights filled with stories left untold. Another voice rose above the crowd, a soft yet steady one. Everyone's fighting their battles in their own way. It was Amy, a single mother herself, her face reflecting an understanding that resonated in the air. Carla's right. We don't have to bow down to society's narrow view of who we are. Her words sparked nods and murmurs of agreement from others in attendance. Jake was beaming now and pride swelled in Carla's chest. They were no longer speaking amongst themselves. They were breathing life into a powerful moment of unity. And suddenly, she realized that with every word she spoke, she influenced not just her story, but the stories of many around her. Lisa, I'm not here to fight you or prove a point. I'm here for something greater, Carla said earnestly, her voice breaking through the noise of uncertainty. For every single mom who feels invisible. For every child who needs to see that love is stronger than the judgment of others. A deep silence cloaked the crowd, hanging in the air like the calm before a storm. Lisa's expression flickered, a blend of confusion and what could only be described as regret. Was that a crack in her armor? You think I wasn't once in your shoes? You think I didn't feel that sting? Lisa's bravado crumbled slightly as she spoke, her voice almost a whisper. I fought to prove I'm more than what people said I would be. A quiet murmur filled the crowd again, rippling like a sudden breeze, catching the fight in Carla's heart. This was her chance not just to stand up for herself but to lift others. Then join me, Carla suggested, her heart racing with hope. Step away from the labels and let us rewrite our stories together. Nobody needs to wear that jacket of shame or judgment. We can be each other's champions. At first, Lisa looked taken aback, as if caught off guard by Carla's invitation to bridge a gap neither of them knew existed. But rather than retaliate, an unexpected softness crossed Lisa's face. Maybe it's time we stop being adversaries and start finding common ground. The words sank into the crowd, sinking deep roots of potential transformation. Laughter bubbled up among a few people, but Carla's heart sank a little. It was still a long way to true understanding. Jake squeezed her hand, pulling her from her thoughts. See, Mom? You're making a difference. His voice rang with innocence and belief, and she couldn't help but smile down at him, even as alarm bells tolled softly in the recesses of her mind. But just then, as quiet intrigue hung in the air like a curtain waiting to drop, Carla felt the world shift again. Stories of old grudges and shared struggles were awaiting their moment. Would they embrace this chance? What lay ahead felt both freeing and terrifying as tension crackled. She held her ground, fully aware that the moment demanded more than words. The crowd's energy was palpable, and deep within, she felt the stirrings of a long-awaited metamorphosis. What did Lisa truly want? And how would the crowd respond now that a challenge laid bare, raw and real before them? Would they embrace this delicate dance of vulnerability and strength, or would fear pull them back into the shadows? The moment hung suspended, like a bead of water on the edge of a leaf ready to drop but unsure of where it would land. Carla felt her pulse quicken, her breath shallow as she searched for the courage to push further. Voices whispered in the background, shifting from doubts to hopes. Why not? She prodded gently, trying to guide Lisa into the light with her. What if we built something beautiful from our struggles? You know what it's like to be judged, to feel like you have to wear someone else's label. But we can redefine what that means. Lisa's eyes flickered with something Carla couldn't quite place. Was that sincerity? Vulnerability? The crowd grew silent, the once distracted faces now transfixed, waiting for something to break through. A few moments passed and then the ice broke. Okay, let us do it, Lisa said, her voice still small but more resolute. Let us stop pretending we have it all figured out. There was bravery in her transparency, and something sparked in the crowd as they collectively exhaled. One by one, others started to share their own stories. A retired teacher spoke of being pushed aside by a system that didn't value her contributions. A father admitted he felt lost after his wife left, wearing his own shame like a shroud. Each voice, each confession became a thread weaving a tapestry of shared humanity, brightly colored in their diverse experiences. Jake's grip on Carla's hand tightened, his small fingers wrapping around her own. She looked down and saw pride shining in his eyes, a beacon of hope in the growing darkness of uncertainty. It reminded her that it was moments like these that built true community, one rooted in understanding and acceptance. But still, somewhere in the back of her mind, Carla wondered if they could really do it. Could they truly leave behind the baggage of their old labels? She glanced at Lisa, half expecting to see fear return to her face. Instead, she saw something new, an ember of determination. Let us not just talk about change, Lisa urged, her voice gaining strength. Let us create a group, a real one, where we help each other rewrite our identities, tackle the labels, face the judgments head-on. A wave of energy rolled through the crowd, the collective excitement palpable. Carla felt it too, a rush of adrenaline that spoke of possibility. The hesitant murmurs transformed into shouts of agreement. "Yes, let us meet next week," shouted Amy, her passion infectious. "Let us be the support we never had." Carla's heart swelled. A dream she didn't even know she had was beginning to take shape. It was more than just her fight anymore. This was about community empowerment, about turning pain into purpose. She could feel the fear slowly dissipating, replaced by an electrifying sense of hope that crackled through the crowd. But just as the momentum built into a crescendo, a harsh voice broke through the moment. "What makes you think it'll make a difference? You think writing angry letters and holding gatherings will change how people see us?" The crowd turned anxiously towards the speaker. It was a woman known for her cynicism, a voice of doubt that cut through the buoyant energy like a knife. Carla's potential victory hung in the balance, as uncertainty threatened to sap the newfound energy from the moment. With hearts beating heavily in their chests, Carla and Lisa exchanged looks. Would this newfound alliance provoke their commitment? Or would the shadows of negativity drag them back down? Would they rise up together or allow skepticism to extinguish the light? Carla took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the room settle over her like a thick fog. She glanced at Lisa, who now stood tall, shoulders squared against the tide of doubt. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the strength they could forge together. Gathering her thoughts, Carla stepped forward, her heart racing but determination flowing through her veins. "Don't you see?" she said, her voice steady. "We're not just writing angry letters. This is about more than that. We've spent too long accepting labels that don't define us. We're here to share our stories, to listen, and to lift each other up. Change starts within each one of us." The critic's expression remained skeptical, arms crossed tightly against her chest as she scrutinized the crowd. But Carla saw a flicker, just a moment where doubt faltered, revealing something more vulnerable beneath. She pressed on. "We all have scars," Carla continued, her eyes sweeping the crowd, meeting gaze after gaze. "But those scars tell a story. They show we've fought hard. We've struggled and survived. We're not charity cases, we're warriors. And together we can write a new narrative." With that, a low murmur began, rising from the back of the crowd. One by one, heads nodded in agreement, fists clenched as if to signify a shared resolve. Jake tightened his grip on Carla's hand even more, his tiny fingers a pulsing reminder of her purpose. "Let us talk about the things we're afraid of," Lisa chimed in, her voice now confident and inviting. "Those judgments don't hold power over us anymore. This is a space where we can be honest and brave." The critic hesitated, then unfolded her arms slowly, as if she were peeling away layers of skepticism. It was enough of a crack in her armor that the tide began to shift. People began to voice their own fears, letting the collective vulnerability wash over them. A young woman shared how she always felt as if she had to prove her worth. "I'm more than just a divorcee," she said, voice trembling at first but growing bolder. The crowd rallied around her, echoing affirmations and applause, each clap resonating like a heartbeat as the stories poured forth, some filled with laughter, others laced with tears. Carla felt the sanctuary they were building taking form. Within the growing community, love, acceptance, and understanding spread like wildfire. They were no longer alone, they had each other. Then, amid the warmth, the critic spoke again, but this time her tone was softer. Maybe it does make a difference. Maybe I've been too afraid to believe." Her voice faltered, eyes darting around, searching for confirmation. "We all have our moments of doubt," Lisa responded gently, her expression open. "But it takes courage to step into the light. Let us build something together that we can all believe in." As those words hung in the air, a hush fell over the crowd. Carla looked around. Their faces were a mixture of hope, fear, and anticipation. The energy was electric, like a live wire about to spark into something spectacular. Suddenly, the critic raised her hand, not in anger but in invitation. "I want to come to the next gathering," she said, a hint of reluctance in her tone, but there was a glimmer of courage in her eyes. Cheers erupted in the crowd, but Carla's heart thundered in her chest. This was it, the real beginning. They were each stepping toward change, letting go of their burdens together. But just then, a loud crash echoed from outside. pulling everyone's attention and sending a ripple of concern through the crowd. What had happened now? Carla's confidence faltered momentarily as dread settled in. Was it something serious? Would this community moment be shattered? For a split second, uncertainty bounced back like a pendulum. What lay beyond those walls could shift their newly found sense of unity. Would they stand together again? Would they allow fear to close in, or rise up stronger than ever? The crash outside sent a shockwave through the crowd, and Carla felt her heart race. She exchanged worried glances with Jake, whose eyes reflected her own trepidation. What was that? He whispered, tightening his grip on her hand. I don't know, but let us find out together, Carla replied, her voice firmer than she felt. They moved toward the exit, the buzz of conversation now replaced by tension. As they stepped outside, they were met with a scene that seemed to freeze time. A table had tipped over, scattering decorations and food across the ground. A few guests were quickly gathering the scattered items, laughter trying to weave its way through the chaos. And there stood Lisa, a bouquet of wildflowers in hand, a sheepish grin crossing her face. Sorry, guess I misjudged my strength, she joked, laughter bubbling in her voice as she locked eyes with Carla. For a brief moment, Carla felt relief, and then it hit her like a wave. This was another chance to connect. Amid the remnants of their previous confrontation, she saw the humanity, the fragility that guided them all. Hey, don't worry about it, Carla shouted, her voice cutting through the laughter and disbelief. Accidents happen to everyone. A subtle shift occurred in the crowd. The laughter grew louder, and a few people stepped forward to help Lisa pick up the mess. The moment hung in the air like a promise. I'm okay with that, Lisa replied, her voice growing lighter as she laughed at herself. Before I would let that ruin my entire day. But now she paused, glancing around at the supportive faces. Now I see I don't have to go through this alone. Carla caught Lisa's glance, an unspoken connection sparking between them. That's what this is all about, she called out, her spirits lifting with the momentum of acceptance, connection, and laughter. None of us have to go through life alone anymore. As the crowd joined in helping clean up, there was an unmistakable energy surfacing, a sense of unity. Carla turned to Jake, whose smile mirrored hers. Look how they're all coming together, she said, a rush of warmth filling her heart. In that moment she felt different, herself lighter, freer. The joy of being seen, really seen, wrapped around her like a warm embrace. With a push from the crowd, they resurrected the dance floor, the music once again pulsing through the venue. Carla and Jake found themselves caught in the whirlwind, laughter erupting, infectious joy radiating from everyone around them. Let us dance, Mom, Jake shouted, pulling her to the center. As they twirled, Carla felt her worries dissipate, replaced by a profound realization. She was redefining her story one moment at a time. She was no longer just the charity case, but a woman who had risen, a warrior full of love and resilience. As they danced, Lisa joined them, a mischievous grin lighting up her face. All right, Carla, show me those moves. Laughter erupted and Carla felt her spirit soar. Here they were, two women who had once drawn lines between each other, now weaving together in a dance of friendship and respect. Each spin flung away their past judgments, and every step moved them toward a shared future, one driven by empowerment rather than shame. With the dance floor surrounded by friends and newfound allies, Carla looked around and felt a deep sense of belonging settle in. Finally, it was a gathering marked not by whispered comments but by loud declarations of hope, strength, and laughter that echoed the principles they were forging together. In that instant, she realized this wasn't just her story anymore. It was a celebration of every struggle, every shared moment, every uplifting encounter. Carla felt proud, a vibrant light in the tapestry of their collective narrative. Mom, you're the best, Jake exclaimed, pulling her from her thoughts, twirling her again. This is only the beginning of something beautiful, sweetheart, she said, hugging him tightly, her heart full to bursting. And as they danced, the music, laughter, and joy swirling all around, a feeling washed over her. She was not defined by her history but, instead, marked by the love she could now share openly and wholeheartedly. With resolve burning in her heart, Carla whispered softly, "We can do this together." And at that moment, surrounded by her community, she knew they would. Now it's your turn to be part of this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support and be a true fan. Don't wait not even one more second.